I wanted to ask about Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir being in America, attending a dinner at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, where senior Republican officials were there as well. He said that the U.S. approves bombing food and aid depots in Gaza. Is this true? Is this endorsed by the Trump administration? And where does the United States stand on this?
You know, that was, I believe, one report. It was something that he said on his own that has not been confirmed or discussed or anything that is relevant for me to be able to comment on that.
Two questions. The Iranians indicating that they want an interim agreement and not a comprehensive agreement. Is this something that you would entertain, or do you think that it is feasible in the next round of negotiation? And second, also they said that the U.S. seems to be in agreement of keeping some kind of a nuclear facilities for peaceful use. And is this also something that you endorse, or do you think that Iran should not have at all any kind of nuclear material that could have been developed, whether it's for peaceful or military use?
Well, there's been a very bright line about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Not acceptable is having a nuclear weapon. That is the one bright line that has been feeding all of the activity. I can give you an update on, the ongoing talks. Might give you a gauge here. The next round of talks are taking place on, we have a team, I guess it's the IAEA's plan is to send a team to Iran this week. The next round of talks will take place in Oman on Saturday and will be the first meeting of technical teams. We can also tell you that the Director of Policy Planning, Michael Anton, will in fact be heading the technical delegation. And yes, Special Envoy Witkoff also will be present. Obviously, I will not, and you know, that I will not discuss the details of any proposals, real or non-existent, discussions, negotiations, what one party says versus another. What I found, and I know it just sounds like rhetoric, but it's true, is that these are very detailed, person-to-person conversations about issues that affect millions of lives, and the things that get talked about on TV by people or pundits, of which I love pundits, I was one. It does not help or really shed any great light on the nature of what's going on, but what it can do sometimes is frighten people and put people in an even more heartbreaking, suffering situation. So I understand that, and that's why I'm reticent, because also there's other countries and people involved, and there's something it's important to not say things that can be misinterpreted. And we are determined to not do that, considering what's happening around the world. But what we do know is clear, and we've been, I think, as transparent as possible. Talks are ongoing. As a matter of fact, they continue to be positive and constructive, I can tell you. So we've made good progress, and we have a long way to go. And so these things go on. As we've seen, sometimes they can change. But that's as much as I can give you. Yeah, so Iran, yes, sir.
Thanks, Tammy. Can we just ask, how was Anton chosen for this role leading the technical side of the talks? My understanding is that he doesn't have a technical background in nuclear science and stuff. Is there going to be someone else advising him, and could you name that person?
I will not go into the details of the rest of the delegation, but he's there because he should be there. All right, Iran? Yes, sir, of course. Saeed.
To the point that actually Nadia raised, yesterday Secretary Rubio told Barry Weiss that the U.S. is open and actually, accepting of an Iran peaceful program, considering that it is a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. But the position of the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is that the total destruction of all nuclear-related facilities, peaceful and otherwise, a la what happened in Libya in the old days. So do you see that this is evolving into some sort of a gap between the position of the United States and Israel?
Yeah, first of all, I reject your general premise. Again, what we can discuss are things that are projected upon regarding the notion of some remarks that the Secretary may or may not make. At the same time, there's a whole host of people working on these issues, and there is nothing to gain, nor will I discuss the details or my opinion or project on the nature of what we expect from something. This is the job of people who are assigned to this and bear the weight of the world on their shoulders as we sit here very comfortably in an air-conditioned briefing room as I try to at least get you information so that you know the general trajectory of how things are. It is remarkable to be standing here 100 days into the Trump administration. Ukraine and Russia are at a table. We may not always like what's said at the table, but they're at the table. We've had a ceasefire in Gaza, which, after what had happened on October 7th, was a remarkable establishment. We continue, despite the resistance to the continuation of that ceasefire, to work on that so that that kind of carnage that has been generational can come to an end. The world remains in this place, and I think the American people knew who we needed in the White House, and it's Trump. Things are changing rapidly, and they will continue to. All right, yes, ma'am, in the back. I'm sorry, can we turn up her mic a bit? So I experimented and sat in the back of the room the other day when there was an event here, and you can't hear anything from any of the other people in the seats when you're further back. So at any rate, go ahead.
I wanted to ask about Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir being in America, attending a dinner at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, where senior Republican officials were there as well. He said that the U.S. approves bombing food and aid depots in Gaza. Is this true? Is this endorsed by the Trump administration? And where does the United States stand on this?
You know, that was, I believe, one report. It was something that he said on his own that has not been confirmed or discussed or anything that is relevant for me to be able to comment on that. It is, of course, in complete contradiction to the nature of our commitment to getting food aid and assistance. And my goodness, the work over these 100 days for that first ceasefire and to get that aid into that area, it's difficult. But that dynamic, I think, is not something that I certainly am going to expand upon with one report, comments from one individual. But what I will do is reiterate, certainly, our commitment to Israel, our commitment to creating a better framework in Gaza, stopping the slaughter, getting aid and food in. That has been a North Star for this administration, for Trump and for Rubio from the beginning, and for, I think, people everywhere for generations. All right.
Aid hasn't
Yes,
gotten
go ahead,
in
Eric.
since
Go ahead, Eric.
March.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. If I can return for one moment to Russia and Ukraine, because
no, that has gone by. We will stick with Iran. And yes, go ahead, or we'll move on to a different topic.
It's just to follow up.
Yes, of course, of course.
On aid into Gaza, because there was a significant statement from the French, German, and UK foreign ministers yesterday about this, saying 1 million children facing acute risk of starvation, epidemic disease, and death. Said the Israeli decision to block aid is intolerable, and Defence Minister Katz's recent comments politicising aid are unacceptable. Called on Hamas to stop diverting aid and to release the hostages. I mean, you've said many times about your position on pressurising Hamas, but I just want to get, and you've talked about it being a North Star to get aid in just now. So what is the work? Are you using your considerable position to ask Israel to lift that blockade?
Well, the last part, my considerable position to do what?
The US using its position, because we haven't really heard about this part of it, to ask the Israelis or to pressure the Israelis to lift the blockade on aid.
Well, directly what I can say is the United States supports the flow of humanitarian aid with safeguards to ensure assistance is not diverted, looted, or misused by terrorist groups such as Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And also when it comes to something like that private meeting mentioned from the earlier question, it's difficult when we've have such a horrible framework on the ground that all of us want to have, well, all of us, of course, except apparently Hamas, want to have changed. And our commitment remains to get that humanitarian aid flowing. It is the point of a ceasefire, right? It is the point of what Special Envoy Witkoff has worked for and achieved. And we, of course, continue to work to try to re-achieve that. But we support Israel as, of course, the ally that they are. And that's, I think our actions speak to the nature of what it is we're committed to.
But can I just clarify, because you mentioned this often about a ceasefire and that appearing to be linked to aid going in is one thing. Are you saying that
there would be a reason, right?
Absolutely, but there is a way to get aid in, and it was done previously, while the conflict is still continuing. And I'm just trying to understand if an agreement is conditional on aid going in for you. So are you saying that aid will, which is what the Israeli position is basically, the Israeli government, is that aid will only go in when there's an agreement. So is that...
Well, yes, I won't... Look, and as you know, and perhaps it's important for me to state it for what your stories are, but I'm not going to comment on Israeli decisions, Israeli negotiations, nor am I going to speak on where things stand currently between conversations. It is what I will say about every negotiation and every situation in the world. Our negotiations and actions never stop. So it's not like it starts at 8 in the morning and ends at 5 p.m. and then waits for a week before something else may happen. Now, the Secretary can't be involved in every single aspect around the world, but our efforts never stop, and that is the case now. Clearly, I will not go into details of how they're working or what the dynamic is or how that's being undertaken, but there is something very clear in our efforts that just our efforts alone indicate is a willingness to hinge all of that, the Trump administration's legacy, the results in what is a 4-year term. We are already 3 months into it, that this is the thing that he decided mattered the most. And that is something that is going to continue to be the case in one fashion or another. I mean, clearly, we're doing many things around the world. But this is something discussed today. The Norwegian foreign minister there discussing the Ukraine-Russia situation, discussing the nature of President Trump's remarks, I think, really highlight his nature. When he was asked about who he was an ally of and what his commitments were, let me see, I think he said this specifically. When asked about who his allegiances were with, he said, "I have an allegiance to saving lives." And for those of you who've met him, that's not a line. It's a line I have to read, but that came from him, and that's what drives this effort. And that includes humanitarian aid, whatever region of the world it's in, and how we can get that moved through. All right.